Hey there. Today I'd like to talk about reading as a spiritual discipline. This may be a very interesting idea for some people because modernly we tend to associate reading with a putting in of information, with memorization. This is probably to do with our approach to education. But whatever the cause, we tend to have a prejudice against reading as a practice. This could also have been amplified by a tendency in certain spiritual schools for individuals to memorize things, whether it be historical or sections of text, as a method of competing and as an alternative to really engaging with the actual practice. In this video, I hope to restore the balance, to regenerate reading so that it's back in its rightful place as a tool for self-transformation, for inspiration and for contemplation. If we were to travel back in time to ancient Egypt, we discover that reading, writing, listening to someone who was enlightened or inspirational, and contemplation were really seen as a part of the same discipline. If we read the Corpus Hermeticum, we very quickly discover that the disciplines associated with listening to a spiritual teacher are more or less the same as we'd modernly associate with meditation. The teacher is constantly reminding the students that they need to sit still, that they need to focus fully, that they need to be receptive to the lessons that are being taught and open their minds and their hearts to him. We also read in the same Hermetic texts that reading can act like a lodestone, a magnet, lifting the person reading up. So that's how inspirational it should be. This same association with reading and self-development exists in other traditions. And one that comes to mind immediately is in Christianity. There is a tradition of divine reading when a certain text from the Bible or a section of the Gospel is read and then intellectually contemplated until you go beyond intellect. And actually, if you look at the experiences that people practicing this beautiful discipline have, and the stages they go through in each contemplation, you'll find that it's very similar to the stages that would be associated with meditation in the Orient. So let's look at why. Why would these be parts of the same discipline to the ancients? This is because the ancient Hermeticists were concerned with discipline and the direction of the mind, of thoughts. So to them, their meditation practice was the controlling and direction of the thoughts. And they'd have exercises for improved awareness, improved concentration, and the development of virtue and good intentions, for gaining better visualization and flexibility. And these meditations would be things you could do yourself. But through reading, you could do all the same things. And likewise, by listening to someone, you could also do all these different things. And indeed, because there's an external force, sometimes it could help guide you in the right direction. A bit like when we're learning a physical skill, having someone to imitate, someone that you could learn directly from, who could adjust you just minutely, would make a big difference. This too was part of the benefits of listening or reading. For them, thoughts and words were the same thing. So speaking was a thought made manifest. Writing was a thought made permanent. And this is a very important concept in Hermeticism and in other spiritual disciplines. So this is all about the development of the consciousness in whatever form it takes. So let's look at what benefits you could gain if you did approach reading the same as you did your meditation practice. You've got good posture, you made sure you were in a situation where you can be undisturbed and you fully engaged with the text. Well, first of all, some of these texts inherently lift you up. They're designed to take you through different stages of mental realization, and they've been adjusted and tweaked and improved over generations of spiritual practitioner. So sometimes these texts have a value of themselves that you wouldn't gain just on your own. Secondly, when we meditate, we try to connect with a certain concept. When reading, if I spend a long time reading on a certain concept, whether it be a principle or an idea, I connect with that. And my mind, my consciousness touches on that force or that concept. And by touching on that during my study, it means that when I come to do something practical, it's so much more available to me. We also allow ourselves to practice correct thought. So if I read a book which is by someone who is enlightened or who has gained great progress in an art I want to gain progress in, I start to practice that way of thinking. So it could be correct thinking in the terms that I practice logic. Again and again I'm reading logical discussions and logical conclusions, so my mind is practicing working the right way. And any negative or bad habits that I picked up from people who aren't perhaps finding things working well for them, they can be replaced with better thinking habits. Likewise, I can also practice good thinking in terms of attitude. So it could be an inspiring, positive view of the world, a view of the world that is really uplifting. In a sense, you get to choose your own company. They say that you are very much the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with, and that we pick up our habits subconsciously. You've probably noticed that one of the best ways to get good at something is to spend time around someone who's very good at it already. With reading, you can choose a book or some works by someone who may not still be alive or may be very hard to contact or spend time with, and you can spend time with them anytime you like, and you can repeat the text as often as you like in the way that perhaps it would be very time consuming to ask the actual person to do. This way you can have good company if people around you aren't really connected with what you're trying to do. One other very positive and overlooked benefit to reading is that of imagination training. This is very important in both ancient times and modern. A book could be viewed as a guided visualization, and people who read fiction a lot tend to gain great mental flexibility. They can visualize complicated scenes effortlessly, and they learn by playing, they learn by just reading. And it would be very interesting to hear any comments by anyone watching this video who has gained a lot of insight and ability from reading fiction. It's not something I personally do, but I've seen it be beneficial in others. So do mention in the comments section below what you believe would be uplifting and good training to read if you're going to read fiction, or perhaps myths and different stories. Now, so far we've talked about reading that works with the way your mind's working and helps you go in the direction you want to go. Sometimes there are texts which are shock tactics. So the Heart Sutra is one of these. If you're not offended by the Heart Sutra, you may not have understood it. It can really wake you up. I also believe that now and again it's good to read a text that is either designed to move you out of your comfort zone, or is actually written by someone you don't agree with at all. So I like to get audio books which are by very famous atheists, and I like to listen to them. I find that really enlightening for me. They really are refreshing because they make me challenge my beliefs and make me reassess things logically, and also I find things I disagree with strongly often lead to great insights. With reading, we get wisdom from generations of people. I talked earlier about the ability to hand down a text which is continually improved. We can also go to a different time, and sometimes reading a book from a different time can make us look at things differently. So even in this video we talked about a different way of looking at words and how they are thoughts. In some of the Renaissance texts, memory and visualization are almost identical in concepts, and when you start to think in these terms it can cause a shift in your perception that can be very useful. Likewise, we can learn from life experience. So we've got lifetimes of different people that we can read their whole lives or accounts of important things in their lives. So rather than going through all this ourselves and making our own mistakes, we can learn from others' mistakes and others' successes. One important thing to remember, though, is that because this is so powerful, when we're reading a text fully, we need to keep our critical facilities about us. Sometimes it's very easy to start agreeing with everything, especially if we go into a very passive state. So remember, engage in the term that you fully picture what's going on, you fully use your intellect to grasp what's happening, but also engage in the sense that you question as well. Because this technique is so important, and because it's so powerful, we need to choose what we read in this method carefully. It's a very focused discipline, and some books can be very transformative, and others could be quite hard to deal with. For this reason, in future videos I'm going to suggest books on different subjects and suggest both how I would recommend you read them and what I believe you could gain from these books if you were to learn from them yourself. One important tip is to remember that modernly we go into reading with a view to memorise. Open your heart when you open the book and go in with a view to be inspired, a view to allow a shift in perception, a view to connect with something more. My name's Martin Faulks, and I hope this video has been of benefit to anyone who wants to get the most out of their time studying books. Until next time, let's let every word, thought and action